Prime Minister's Chief Economic Advisor, Mr. C. Rangarajan, is confident that for the coming year, India will grow at 7.1% despite a sticky environment and global challenges. Why? Let's listen in.
On ET now, my first quick question is, you've kept the growth target for this year at 7.1%, and for the next year you've projected it between 7.5 to 8%. How certain are you of meeting this target? Because we've had downward revision of targets for growth as far as this year is concerned. What are the things that you believe are going to drive the growth for next year?
The CSO has already come up with the advanced estimate regarding the growth rate for the current year. They have given an estimate of 6.9%. We have looked at the projections for the various subsectors and then taken a view whether there is any scope for a higher growth rate in any of the sectors. We believe both in agriculture and in construction, the growth rate may be a shade higher than what the CSO has estimated. Therefore, given the slightly higher growth rate for food and construction, we come to the conclusion that the growth rate for the current year will be 7.1%. But please note that it is only 2 decimal points above what the CSO has indicated, but it does cross the psychological 7% barrier.
So talking about, you did mention about the crucial tax to GDP ratio and the need to raise it. You spoke about certain sectors in the indirect tax area which needs probably going back to the older tax rates. What is really the rationale behind that? And do you think it's plausible, considering we're looking at GST coming into the picture? And would it pose problems as far as the integration is concerned?
No, I think the idea is that in the context of the international financial crisis, we brought down certain rates, and therefore it is nearly 2-3 years since the crisis erupted, and therefore we really need to look at those rates. Therefore, the possibility of going back to the pre-crisis levels of tax to GDP ratio is extremely important, because that level of tax revenue is needed in order to meet the expanding expenditures. Therefore, the analysis will have to be in terms of how to go back to the pre-crisis level of tax GDP ratio, whether what changes can be made in indirect taxes and what changes can be made in a service tax.
So, talking about the subsidy, we have been facing a huge burden. In fact, the finance minister, he had been losing sleep over the subsidy burden. You have talked about phasing out of certain subsidies. Do you think, apart from oil, there are any other sectors as well where the subsidies could be?
I think the major area will be the petroleum subsidies. The under recoveries, as they call them, or the oil marketing companies, is growing. Because the crude oil prices internationally have not come down. If anything, they have also gone up, inched up. And therefore, there is a big burden. And therefore, if we even attack this one single area of subsidy, we may get substantial easing as far as reducing the fiscal deficit is concerned.
So very quickly, one last question. You did talk about the need for the government to lay down a roadmap for fiscal consolidation. A couple of quick pointers from you. What is that the government could possibly do to get its act together as far as the fiscal?
No, I think the 13th Finance Commission laid out a certain roadmap of when the FRBM target of 3% of GDP will be achieved. Now, perhaps it may not be possible to achieve that target by the year indicated by the 13th Finance Commission. Therefore, if there is a revision, then I think the government should now indicate the time period over which the fiscal deficit will be brought down to the FRBM target of 3% of GDP.